everybody remembers the Piazza home run. What people don't remember is Fonzie's at bat before that. I think it was like an 8-9 pitch at bat, fouling balls off. You said earlier during pregame he's one of your all-time favorite players. What made him such a great hitter?
He is one of my all-time favorite players, and I think he's one of the best players I've ever played with. And I think that he's so underrated because of the fact he was quiet. He was never a showboat at all. He just could play the game as well as anybody I've ever seen. And on both sides of the ball, he was plus defender. He was a great base runner. Even whether he wasn't a fast guy, he had great base running instincts. He had a huge baseball IQ. But he was one of the most clutch guys at home plate that I've ever seen. He had big hits all the way down the stretch run in 2000 to get us to the playoffs and get us through the Giants series and get us into the World Series. And then he just was always that guy that was a little bit overshadowed because he would make a big hit, set the table, and Mike would come up in those moments that Mike would thrive in and either hit the big home run against the Braves in the big comeback or hit the big home run on this September 21st game. It was just, I always loved having Alfonso as a teammate and just one of the great gentlemen in the game.
Carsey was pitching that game. What did you remember about him?
Carsey's a hard thrower. He relies on that four-seam fastball, and that in those days, he was one of the few guys that would consistently throw high 90s, and so you knew that he'd want to rely on that fastball. He had a changeup and a slider as well. Try to get ahead of you with the fastball, and was also a local guy, a New York guy. So I'm sure he was feeling a range of emotions, and it was pretty ironic that you have that many guys attached to the community of New York being on the center stage in this one particular ball game. So, look, Mike was a guy that if you got a fastball out over the plate, he always had a chance to do something spectacular. And he got one. It was just picturesque when Carsey came in and set the stage for Mike coming up. You could feel the crowd at that particular time. As soon as Fonzie walked and Mike took his slow walk to the plate, you could feel the crowd getting ready. Yeah, it was actually noticeable. You could feel that, hey, this is the moment. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Something amazing could happen right now. And I think the guys were more attentive on the bench. And you could definitely hear, it's palpable. You can hear in the rebroadcast of the game, the crowd starting to get ready for Mike to come up. And we're just, I think, hoping and praying that something big happened.
I only got 3 more here, Todd. One of the most vivid moments for me, besides all the crowd reaction, was when Mike hit that homer and he came into the dugout. It seemed like that entire team needed just what the crowd did, a release. That they, like it was okay. You said before, what was it like in that dugout when Mike comes past his home plate and is with you guys?
Yeah, it's almost indescribable because I think there was such a contradictory feeling internally during that whole night. When we did something good, could we smile? Could you enjoy a baseball game like we did prior to? Were we ever going to enjoy playing at Chase Stadium like we did before? I mean, there's just so many things that we were thinking about in that particular moment. And I think when the crowd erupted and you could see the looks on people's face and you could see smiling and high-fiving and hugging with the first responders that were there and the people that I knew had so much bottled up leading up to that moment, I think it sort of gave us silent permission to celebrate it. And then I think it really, I felt at least, an added, not pressure, but responsibility to hold it. This was not a walk-off bottom 9. This was a bottom 8, one that gave us a skinny lead. And we've seen so many times that this Braves team comes back heroics in the ninth inning against us. So I think we felt this, okay, that's the relief. That's the moment we've waited for. We all recognized that it was going to be something that was impactful, but it would only be as impactful as we think it is right now if we can get 3 more outs.
I was going to ask you what the most vivid memory is, but it seems like it was Liza Minnelli.
Liza Minnelli, for me, was the most vivid takeaway from that experience. I mean, obviously Mike's home run, because it's been replayed so many times and it has become a part of, I think, the culture of Major League Baseball, really, and New York City. And I think, without question, I know Mike would say the same thing when people have asked me, and I've had some fun, interesting, amazing moments in my career. That stands out, that game, and then what revolved around that moment stands out as the most impactful kind of, special game that I've ever played in all of my years.
You didn't win a World Series with the Mets. You said you didn't watch this game. But I'm sure, like, when you talk to Met fans, people remember you and they think of you fondly, not only for what you did on the field, but a lot of it had to do that you were part of this game.
I think it did. I mean, there was a feeling that I kind of got adopted by this family. I was kind of a nomadic player, 16 years, but 11 teams. But I think part of the reason that I've become, sort of a family member in New York and with the New York Mets specifically is that I had 3 very monumental moments in my career that surrounded the New York Mets, and that's the 2000 World Series, the Subway Series, which I think is so iconic in this city. And I had good success in that series. I had a good championship series leading up to that. So that was impactful. This living through 9/11, wearing the hats. I happen to be the one quoted about wearing the hats because Major League Baseball did not want us to wear the hats because of the uniform policy. And I was the one quoted because I was the player rep saying, if they don't think we're going to wear the hats, they can come down here and try to take them off our head. And that, I think, sort of solidified the attitude that the Mets fan base and those first responders had about kind of identifying with us as a team at that moment. And then I finished my career here. I got to come back here, know it was my swan song, and my final game in a Mets uniform, my final game of my career ended with a 3-run homer where I got to, walk off with, and catch Johnny Franco's last out as a Met, as a pop-up. So those things were things that I think stick in the memory, but in the middle of that is obviously 9/11, the aftermath, and then that 9/21 game and the sort of the feeling of restoration that baseball brought to the city.
So that was one of the most important games you ever played?
Absolutely, probably the most important game I ever played.